Welcome, everybody, to another edition of the Winner's Circle. I'm Ross Benjamin. I'm joined once again by professional sports handicapper out of Las Vegas and past Hilton Super Contest winner, Mr. Chip Chirimbus. Chip, how's it going today?
Well, it's been a great week to lick our wounds, of course, and got big action on Thursday night in the NFL and, of course, college football this weekend, gearing up for it. I'm really excited about some of the matchups, Ross. And I know you are too. We've discussed it earlier. So,
yeah,
a
lot of games being canceled this week. I know that you were keen on possibly taking Ohio State this week against a Maryland team who was coming off back-to-back double-digit underdog wins, which is, I wouldn't say it's unprecedented, but it's rare. You know what I mean? And the general public was falling in love with him, right? You know, unfortunately,
that was pretty much it. I think. We saw Maryland get annihilated the first week of the season, and they've been playing well with 2-2 leading the way, and we'll see what happens. And well, anyway, we lost the week before. We lost the Louisville Virginia matchup, which both of us were really keyed on and as top plays of the day. And I think that pretty much set me off on a wrong foot on Saturday as it was. But you got to go on each and every day. We've got action tonight, tomorrow, and Saturday, and right on through.
You got to evolve. You got to be able to adjust on the fly. That's what you do in this industry if you want to be successful. Chip, let's start with the game between Florida and the Arkansas Razorbacks. It's intriguing to me because this game is pretty much held steady at 17 and a half. We're seeing a little bit of action on Arkansas in this game. Arkansas, a team that had come into the year, I believe, on a 22-game SEC losing streak, and Florida coming off an emotional win, I guess you can call it, because anytime they play Georgia, it's always a rivalry game in Jacksonville, the world's largest cocktail party, and the Gators handle them very easily in a Georgia defense that so highly acclaimed they made them look silly in that game, racking up over 500 yards a total offense. Do they have a hard time recovering from that win against the upstart Arkansas Razorbacks?
I don't know. I mean, they should, Ross. And that game last week really looked like it was going Georgia's way. I mean, they're built on defense. They jump out to that quick 14-0 lead, and you think and they never had a shot. They never had a prayer. This Florida offense was just too good. This Tasker's really, I think he's a pro, and the Gators know how to run an offense. I think I'm thinking differently about a lot of these games after a big win this season, because there isn't that 13-week, 14-week, 16-week season where they have a lull. They know they have to come out each and every day.
Right? A lot of urgency and desperation.
Yeah, and so Arkansas won their game after 22 losses. So did Rutgers, and then what? Then they got pounded. So I would not take Florida because it's just, I think there's so many better situations out there for us, and there's a lot of reasons not to take it after a big win over Georgia. They went the way they beat them, and but I don't know if Arkansas is worthy, and I think Florida's still fighting. They're on the outside looking in as far as the Final Four. So you may get a great effort out of the Gators here, though psychologically, you're absolutely right, Ross. There should be a lull or a letdown somewhere, but I don't know if that's working so much this season.
Yeah, I mean, Arkansas is 3-3 in the SEC this year. The new head coach doing a fine job. Unfortunately, he's going to be sidelined with COVID-19 this week, and they're going to go with Barry Odom as the interim coach. Barry Odom, formerly of Missouri. So who knows how much effect that's going to have on the Arkansas Razorbacks playing down in the swamp in Gainesville. TCU and West Virginia, a game we discussed off air. And, this West Virginia defense, certainly not an atypical Big 12 defense by any stretch of the imagination, but their offense far from dynamic as well. TCU, I just don't know what team's going to show up, Chip. They're 3-3. They go on the road. They beat Texas. They won another road game last week, I believe. They come home. After Texas, they play Kansas State. They get beat as a better-than-touchdown favorite against a true freshman quarterback. I'm a little bit lost on this one, Chip. Maybe you can hone us in a little bit.
Well, from the moment I saw this game, I had a big red flag went up because we all know West Virginia plays so well at home. I mean, they're even perfect this year, straight up and against the points. And TCU, like you said, is just been so inconsistent, and they haven't been the team that maybe we had anticipated. And if you compare these two teams statistically, where you look at the defense against the defense and offense, TCU should be close to a 6-point underdog here, Ross. And when that number came up 1.5, it's moved up a little bit. I really raised an eyebrow, and I said, I think they're telling you that West Virginia, who probably everybody has caught on to now, that the Mountaineers play well at home, and they're going to gravitate toward them at this easy number. And I think it's a sucker play to play Mountaineers here. I like TCU in this game, Ross. I'm not holding back on it at all. I think it's the side. And I tried comparative stats and went through it. There's no reason to have TCU in this game other than the fact that number is really, it sticks out to me.
Yeah, I mean, again, I'm going to go back to my cliche. You need to think like a bookmaker.
Yeah.
And I can't put words in Chip's mouth, but that's exactly what he's doing in this situation. And, if it looks too good to be true in sports betting, most times it is. Florida State and North Carolina State, a game to be played in Raleigh. This game opened with North Carolina State around a touchdown favorite. They're now up to 10. And Florida State, some internal issues this week. James Blackman, the former starting quarterback, is transferring, and a wide receiver was kicked off the team. Having said that, North Carolina State, you don't know what you're going to get from them either. They're one of those teams that could put up a lot of points, but they don't stop anybody either, Chip. Can Florida State stay in this game, Chipper?
When I first saw the game, I really liked the spot for the Seminoles. You and I both had the Wolfpack, and they eked out a point spread win against Miami, I think on a Thursday or Friday night.
It was a Thursday night game.
And I thought there might be an overreaction toward NC State because they have played well, and Florida State's been inconsistent. And I thought this was going to be a spot for me to get on the Seminoles. But, Ross, you mentioned it. The line opened 7, and it just jumped to 10. That was moved for a particular reason. That wasn't people betting it up. So there's injuries or defections or other issues that maybe we're not quite aware of. And I just eliminated this game. And I had this on my, how we go through it. We list a whole bunch of games, and then we eliminate them one by one. And this one, I eliminated kind of early because of the issues surrounding it.
Yeah, and Chip's very astute at this, folks. Following line movement and discerning, and I say that respectfully, and discerning the difference between a money-generated move and something's up that we don't know about or we should look into. And this is one of those particular situations. Maybe the internal issues that I just discussed, Chip, you know what I mean, has something to do with
Ross, I'm sorry, but the difficulty too now is our access to information is limited compared to how it was in the past because of, everything is just so closed down and so closed now. And where we used to be able to have people give us information or provide information for us, it's not always there. So in a situation like this, where this number moves, I question as to why. You just mentioned it. And, I think it's best to just trust that the bookmaker and the odds makers knows what he's doing, and he's not ready to give you a bargain. I got, you and I talked about this. I'm saying, I got value now.
Yeah. When I hear somebody say that, you want to put a sticker that says sucker on their forehead.
Yeah.
With all due respect, but we've been doing this a long time, and we could spot something like that a mile away. When you have uncertainty like that and you can't make heads or tails out of the line movement, possibly because of this, possibly because of COVID-19, that's the other issue, right, Chip? We don't know. We don't know if they're fully disclosing. You see a lot of these injuries saying undisclosed. Okay, well, undisclosed, what conclusion do we draw from that in this 2020? It's COVID-19.
We don't have to have this game, Ross.
No.
I mean, there's so many, and we don't have to have any particular game if it doesn't fit the criteria for us. So, there's a difference between like gambling and making a bet to make money. And I'd rather make a bet to make money than gamble. And I don't take shots, and nobody should, because it's your pocketbook. Now, a lot of people just into it for the entertainment value, but I'm here to make money with it. And when I put my money up, I want to get value for it. And we'll see what happens.
Yeah, we make a living at it. You know what I mean? Yeah. It's a difference. I mean, you can't throw darts and hope it sticks. kind of thing. And you know, especially on a Saturday college football board, Chip, there's so many games. I know a lot got canceled this week, but there's still a slew of games. Why try to narrow yourself into a box and get squirmy trying to make a pick? If you're feeling like that, move on to the next game.
You know, and Russ, there's some games you're going to want to watch, and you want action on it, and you know, that's different. If you have to have some kind of action on a game because it's on, it's fine, but don't make that your
exactly
your big play or the basis of your day.
That's what a lot of people do on these Thursday night and Monday night games. Now, having said that, you know, we both have a play. You have the side tonight, and I have the total on this game. So you can get that. Actually, Chip is now up at atswins.com. He's part of the network there. A lot of you who follow the OSGA network, which you're listening to right now, know I do a show with Ron Raymond called The Raymond Report. Chip is going to join ATSstats.com. He's already got a pickup tonight on this game, the Thursday night NFL game, and he's going to be joined with Ron Raymond in a future podcast as well. So stay tuned. We'll keep you abreast of that. He's also got his own website, chipwins.com, coming up. Probably be up safely, can say, by the weekend. So
yeah,
keep an eye on
ready
that.
to launch it.
Yep. All right. Speaking of moving on to the next game, Chipper, Notre Dame at Boston College. Talk about intrigue. Here we go. So me and Chip talked about this off air, and he made a very good point to me, and I'm totally in agreement with him. Notre Dame's coming off a win at home against number one Clemson. The last time they hosted a number one team was back in the early 90s, a team called Florida State, who was coached by Bobby Bowden, and then Notre Dame was coached by Lou Holtz. Notre Dame upset Florida State at home, and the following week they were a double-digit favorite against, ironically, Boston College. So irony has set in. Now, having said that, that's been a well-documented story all week long, right?
Right.
And if we know about it, the kids been hearing about this all week long at Notre Dame. And boy, oh boy, was I impressed with Ian Book last week against Clemson. I think I mentioned this on our Tuesday show.
Yeah.
He just showed me a lot. Heart, character, the ability to extend plays with his legs, his accuracy on throws when he's on the move. He just played a complete game against Clemson. But we're looking at, it opened at 13, and we're seeing some 13.5s out there, yet we're seeing most money in a larger percentage of bets going to Boston College. It's what we call reverse line movement. Now, not a huge move, right, Chip? But what's your early thoughts here?
Well, you know, when we first saw this game, you mentioned that, you know, what had happened 30 years ago or 25, whenever it was, and before the media had even said anything, and you had mentioned, and then all of a sudden I'm hearing it everywhere. There's a lot of attention being paid to Boston College here. They're not the weakest team in the world out there. And they're at home, and these are two Jesuit schools that, believe me, Boston College is going to be ready for it. But you made a good point about the Irish have been hearing it. They've been hearing it, and they've been hearing it all week, and they're aware of it. And like I said, with a limited schedule, these teams can't afford a lull. And Notre Dame looked like they can play football to me, and they look like they belong. And that was the first time, Ross, that Ian Book looked like an NFL quarterback to me, that he could possibly play at the next level. Because you know, there's certain things you're looking for and it's just sometimes their movement and the way they throw the ball. And but you said it when you said he threw the ball on the run. He threw an absolutely 30-yard dart accurately when being pressured and moving. I was very impressed with him, and Notre Dame's for real. I think they can play football.
You know, and he seems you know, if you watch football for a long time on the college level, especially, you could detect by watching the guy play at times when you know he's got a high football IQ. And that's how Ian Book impresses me, Chipper. I can't put my finger on it, but he makes good decisions. He protects the football. You know, he did turn it over once last week, but over the long haul, he's done a heck of a job of protecting the football and allowing Notre Dame not to beat themselves.
And we should give Kelly some credit for his development. I would say. I mean, he's in there because you know, I never expected him to be say turn in a performance like I saw against Clemson, and so he can do it. We know he can do it. So it's going to be interesting to see down the line, because there's some guys like Herbert, when you saw him, and when you Burrow, you just knew these guys had it. And sometimes you get shocked, like with Ryan Leaf, but we never thought. Let's not even go there. We got too much in depth to talk about people that didn't make it.
Anyway, and in BC's defense, a lot of people I've heard go, well, they only beat Syracuse by 3 last week as a 14-point favorite. Well, keep this in mind, okay? The week before they played Clemson, by the way, had a 28-10 lead at Clemson and lost the game 34-28. And then they go to Syracuse, who's like 1-6 at the time, and looks like they have a hard time beating an FCS team right now. And they knew they had Notre Dame on deck. So I'm going to give them a little bit of an excuse for a flat spot last week, Chipper. And this is a game I'm really going to keep an eye on. We'll see if Notre Dame's for real this week and the character on that team, because it's easy to get amped up for Clemson, right? And then after that win, it's easy to continue to feel amped up. But now how do you adjust a week later as a double-digit favorite on the road against a fellow ACC team with a 5-3 record? Like you said, they're not that bad. So,
and coaches know that this letdown is about to happen, and you've seen it where they can't stop it. I mean, it's just something that
it's human nature, right, Chip? We played sports, you know that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You can't possibly be at that emotional level every time you play. It's as much as you try to be cognizant of it and stay on an even keel, which seems to be an overused cliche. It's difficult. It really is in the world of sports. Here's a game that's not going to get a lot of attention, Chip, and it's in the ACC. The Pitt Panthers at the Georgia Tech Yellow Jackets. This game opened up at 6.5. It's still 6.5. Pitt, after that 4-game losing streak, bounced back in a strong manner by blowing out Florida State on the road last week. And Georgia Tech just can't get out of their own way since getting off to a somewhat promising start. So what do you see in this matchup, Chipper?
Well, both these teams played Notre Dame, and Pitt got annihilated, and Georgia Tech played them tough. And when I first saw this line here, I thought that Georgia Tech would definitely be the side, and people would gravitate toward Pitt, and they have. But Georgia Tech has had some real clunkers out there, some really bad issues. Oh, by the way, before I forget, I wanted to mention, Ross, and just for a second, most of the services and newsletters that I've seen on that Notre Dame game are going with Boston College. They're readily taking the Eagles and the points. So I just wanted to throw that out there. Now getting back to this one here in Georgia Tech.
Valid point.
I can take Georgia Tech here. I looked at the game earlier. I thought it would be a spot for maybe after Pitt's big monster win last week to let down a little bit. But I don't want any part of it.
Yeah, it's a tough call. I mean, two teams that are going absolutely nowhere, but two teams that have been extremely inconsistent and bordering on the poor side. And Pitt coming off a big win. Did they get their mojo back? They're 4-4. You know what? Better value on the board. Let's move on to the next game. Before we get on to the next game, I'm Ross Benjamin. My partner, Chip Chirimbus. We're on the OSGA YouTube network, folks, and we deeply appreciate it. And the owner would as well, Jim Quinn, who's nice enough to have us on his podcast on this channel. Give us subscribe to the channel. Costs you absolutely nothing. No strings attached. And give us a like at the end of the video. It would make us happy because we're certainly trying to make you happy with the best information possible to make you a smarter sports better today than you were yesterday. Miami of Florida at Virginia Tech, Chipper. Virginia Tech, who burned us last week, right? Double-digit favorite as an unranked team against a ranked team in Liberty. And lo and behold, Liberty stuck it right in our behind with that 28-30.
We outsmarted ourselves, Ross.
Yes, absolutely. Now, here we go again. Now, Virginia Tech, unranked still, obviously. They lost to Liberty. They're not going to jump up in the standings. And they're playing number 9 Miami, and they're a favorite in the game once again. Opened at 2.5, down to 2. I got a question. I looked at Miami of Florida on the road this year. Man, look at all the high-scoring games they played on the road, Chipper.
Yeah.
They're giving up a ton of points and a ton of yards on the road, and now Virginia Tech team averaging 277 a game on the ground. I didn't realize that till earlier in the week when I handicapped this game. And coming off that embarrassing loss as a 17-point favorite to an upstart Liberty program, what's your thoughts here? I mean, again, it looks like Virginia Tech's the side to me, based on the unranked team being a favorite against a ranked team. It certainly didn't deter the books, right? You know,
I mean, without question. I mean, you and I both, one of the first things we saw was how does Virginia Tech, who just lost to Liberty outright, come up favorite against this Miami team, number 9 in the country. And the problem is if you look, Virginia Tech won the matchup last year between these two, and this quarterback, we've talked about this. He has changed his Miami.
Absolutely,
the whole school system is way different. Their attitude and the way they play, but like you said, defensively they're giving up a lot of points as well. Maybe the way to go on the game is the over, but I think that the odds maker, we said sometimes you got to think like a bookmaker, and him making Virginia Tech. All week long, Virginia Tech knows they lost to Liberty. They didn't lose to Clemson. They didn't lose to South Carolina. They lost to Liberty. Yeah. So, and I think they're going to be ready for Miami here. I really do. If this game was played later in the day as opposed to a noon start, I might have it higher rated. I'm a little leery of games that start so early in the day.
Yeah. You know how big that win was for Liberty? They gave Hugh Freeze, the former coach of Mississippi, now at Liberty, they gave him an extension through 2026. So at our expense, Chipper, by the way.
Well, Freeze was involved in some nefarious duties, wasn't he?
Oh, yeah, Mississippi got recruiting violations and so. But look, that's the same guy who brought in A.J. Brown, who brought in D.K. Metcalf, who are now star receivers in the NFL.
Yeah.
Dawson Knox was their tight end. He's starting for the Buffalo Bills right now. The next year after he left, that same team with all those guys went 5-7. That coach deserved to get fired. That's for sure with that kind of firepower. And he can't put up a winning record, SEC or not. Anyway, Indiana is now number 10 in the country. You want me to say that again? Indiana is number 10 in the country. They're going to Michigan State. And you know what, Chipper? Here's the thing. They're coming off. Let me start by saying this. This game opened at 9. It's down to 7 with Indiana being the favorite. Indiana coming off a win against Michigan, who had beat them 24 times in a row. So they got off over that hurdle against their arch nemesis. And guess who Indiana's got up next, Chip?
Michigan State.
No, number 3, Ohio State after this game.
Ohio State next week.
Yeah, well, 2 weeks, actually. They're going to have a bye.
Okay.
Michigan State got lambasted 49-7 against Iowa. Are they as bad as that final score, or are they the team that beat Michigan 2 weeks ago as a 21.5-point underdog? Tough call.
And we're talking about the same team that lost to Rutgers, who lost 22 Big Ten games in a row, conference games in a row.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't know how good they are. I mean,
you look at the turnover differential here. Indiana, I think they're somewhere around a +9. And Michigan State, by the way, in that Rutgers game, they turned the ball over 7 times. They're a -7 in the turnover department. That might go a long way in determining who wins that game or not. We got about 5 minutes left here, Chip, so we'll try to get through as many games for the listeners as we can. Northwestern, now number 23 in the country. Is there a more underrated head coach in the country than Pat Fitzgerald of Northwestern? I'd be hard pressed to come up with one. A guy who sustained success at Northwestern, which isn't an easy school to recruit, right, Chip? It's almost like the Vanderbilt of the SEC.
Right.
High academic standards.
Yeah, you got more nerds going there than you do athletes. That's for sure.
Anyway, that's not a team you could play for, by the way. One of Chip's famous sayings is when we evaluate a game on another show and the host comes up with this obscure game, he says, I don't bet on any team that I could play for. So Northwestern isn't one of those teams. Anyway, Northwestern and Purdue at Purdue, getting back to the subject at hand. The game opens as a pick'em. Northwestern 2.5 right now. Northwestern 3-0, Purdue 2-0. Any feeling here?
Yeah, well, when you first look at it, I think the way we view games, We're thinking that Northwestern at 3-0, laying such a short number might be the side. And then I'd look at this Purdue team, and Purdue was in a predicament like this. They opened the season at home against, say, Iowa, and as an underdog, and they won the game outright. I believe it was Iowa. There's too many similarities in that situation, so I want to stay away from Purdue, because Northwestern, I think, has been outgained in all three of their wins, Ross. I mean, like you said, coaching, it goes a long way, and this guy's done a great job there. They haven't overrun people. Last week, Nebraska outgained them, and Nebraska had that big lead on it. That was one of my free plays, believe it or not. You know, the kind of catastrophe Saturday I had. I thought Nebraska was going to be good there, but they didn't get there.
Well, one last game, and we got to make this quick.
Okay.
Penn State at Nebraska.
Who
Who would have thought we'd be talking about at this particular moment in time an 0-3 Penn State team going on the road against Nebraska, who's 0-2. Yet Penn State at 0-3 is a 3-point road favorite in Lincoln. Now Nebraska did open the year by playing Ohio State. They held in that game for about a quarter and a half, and then they got blown away. And then last week they lose a winnable game. I would consider a winnable game against Northwestern, right? And so you have any feeling on this? This looks like a tough call. Two winless teams, two teams that are underachieving, and the road favorite is Penn State here.
Well, I can tell you without question, I think the public and just about everyone is going to be on the Nittany Lions. Shocking loss last week to Maryland, a team they always dominate. They dominated Indiana and got beat. 0-3. You had mentioned it. Did you ever anticipate that Nebraska and Penn State could be playing the second weekend in November, and both those teams are winless?
Yeah.
Unfathomable,
right? Yeah.
I think, I'm sort of rooting for the Cornhuskers here. I'm thinking, I know the money is coming on Penn State so heavily, and I just don't know if they're good enough. Ross, I really don't. They had a 10-0 or 13-0 lead over Northwestern at halftime last week. They played, like I said, well for the first 20 minutes against Ohio State, and it just seems like they give it all they have for a while, and then everything seems to fall apart.
Yeah, and Penn State, 27-point favorite last week at home against Maryland, and they lose 35-19 or somewhere in that area. They got blown out. It's just hard to imagine. Anyway, Chip, I got about 2 minutes here for us. Tell the folks, you want to highlight what you got tonight. Sure. Tell them what you may have on tap over the weekend. I know you still haven't posted, but what you normally do on Saturday and Sunday.
Ross, I am ready for this weekend. I'll tell you that right now. I have 7 games in college football that I'm going to use one way or another. One of them is going to be the very late game, and that's going to be a bailout special, but you don't need it. You can use it as a double down winner. And if they're interested in these games, they can go to chipwins.com on the weekend. I'll be up and ready to go, probably even tomorrow. And or call me at 702-931-2447, which is 702-931-CHIP. Thank you very much, Ross. I appreciate it.
No problem, Chip. And for myself, I had Western Michigan last night. A bit lucky. Sometimes those are the kind of games you win. You forget about those easy. You always remember the bad beats. That was really lucky what I had last night. And maybe that turns things around for me in college football, because it's been a struggle over the last couple of weeks. In the NFL, another story, 29-18 over my last 47 NFL pay picks, 62%. Tonight I have a winning total in the Indianapolis-Tennessee game. You can get it at my website, rbwins.com. That's rbwins.com. Also, college football Saturday, 3 to 5 picks, including a 10-star top play. Sunday in the NFL, 3 to 5 picks, including a 10-star top play. You can get my weekly or monthly packages there as well. I guarantee my subscription packages, not my daily packages. If you're not making a profit at the end of your subscription, you will get your package extended until you do. That's my guarantee to you, and the confidence I have in myself that I'll make you money over the long haul. I'm Ross Benjamin, and for Chip Chirimbus, thank you for joining us. Another version of the Winner's Circle. We'll be back tomorrow with our NFL Late Week Show. Take care, folks, and God bless.